What if one simple decision made after 60 could completely change the financial outcome of your entire retirement? Retirement Revealed. Top Pro Says Do This After 60 by Daniel Robert Whitmore. Senior Security with Daniel. Hello, friends. This is Daniel Whitmore. I spent more than 2 decades working inside the Social Security Administration, and over the years I've helped thousands of Americans figure out when it really makes sense to walk away from work. And here's what I've learned. There's usually a moment in your life when keeping your job actually becomes more costly than retiring does. Not just financially, I mean in every way that matters. So today I want to talk with you about 5 powerful reasons why, if you're approaching 60 or beyond, it might be the right moment to take that step. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're probably thinking, well, Daniel, I need my paycheck, I need my benefits, I need to keep building my Social Security record, I need to contribute to my 401k or my IRA. And yes, those are real considerations. Those are important things to think about. But there comes a point, and this is what most people don't understand, where each additional dollar you earn stops being a gain and starts being a loss. That's the moment we need to talk about. So let me share these 5 reasons with you, and I want you to listen carefully, because one or more of these might apply directly to your situation. The first reason has to do with something we almost never talk about, and that's the reality of time itself. Think about this for a moment. You can always find a way to earn more money. Maybe it's hard. Maybe it takes sacrifice. Maybe it requires you to pick yourself up after a setback. But money, in the end, is reproducible. You can make more. You can recover from losses. You can rebuild. But time? Time is the one thing in your entire life that you cannot manufacture, cannot replace, and cannot get back once it's gone. When you're young, in your 20s and 30s, money matters more than time because you have plenty of time and very little money. So you trade your time for income. You work extra hours. You build your career. You accumulate your nest egg. That's the right decision at that stage of life. But here's what changes. After you've been working for decades, after you've finally built up a substantial amount of savings, the equation flips. Time becomes the scarcer resource. Time becomes the thing you can never acquire no matter how hard you work. And I've seen this play out in the lives of so many people I've worked with over the years. I remember a gentleman I'll call Michael. He came to me at age 63 and he said he was thinking about working until 70 to maximize his Social Security benefits. He wanted to reach that full retirement age and delay claiming for a few more years beyond that. On paper, it made sense. The math was there. But I asked him one question. Michael, if you stay working for 7 more years, spending 40 to 50 hours every week at your office, can you guarantee me that you'll be in the same health at 70 that you are right now? Can you guarantee that your knees will be as good, that your eyes will be as sharp, that your energy will be the same? He didn't answer right away. He just looked at me. And then he started talking about his grandchildren. He talked about wanting to travel with his wife while they could both enjoy it. He talked about hobbies he'd set aside for decades. Within 6 months of that conversation, Michael retired. He started drawing his Social Security at 64. And you know what he told me a year later? He said those 12 months felt like 12 years of living compared to his previous decade. So that's the first thing I want you to understand. Time is genuinely irreplaceable. Once you've reached a place where you have enough money to live on, and this is crucial, you do need to have crossed that threshold. Staying at work past that point means trading away days, weeks, months, and years of your life that you will never see again. That's not alarmism. That's mathematics. The second reason to consider retiring is about your health. I'm going to ask you to imagine something with me. Picture the average American worker who's reached their early 60s. Maybe you know this person. Maybe you are this person. They've spent 40 years in the workforce, 40 years of meetings, 40 years of deadlines, 40 years of alarm clocks and commutes and performance reviews. They've raised their family. They've paid their mortgage. They've built their career. And what do you see when you look at that person? Usually you see someone who's tired. You see stress lines on their face. You see someone whose shoulders carry tension. You see someone who's probably eating lunch at their desk or skipping it altogether. That person is carrying a heavy load. Here's what we know from medical research. Chronic work stress absolutely damages your body. It damages your heart. It increases your risk of stroke. It weakens your immune system. It can trigger depression and anxiety. The very years when you should be in your strongest health condition, because you have the time to exercise, to eat well, to manage stress, are instead the years of peak work pressure for most people. It's a terrible collision of bad timing. I worked with a woman named Sarah who was a department manager at a large firm. She was approaching 61, and she had some health warnings from her doctor. Nothing catastrophic yet, but warning signs. Blood pressure trending up. Cholesterol numbers that concerned her physician. Her doctor actually said to her directly that if she continued at the stress level she was experiencing, she was looking at serious health consequences within 5 to 10 years. Now, Sarah had built a reasonable retirement income through her 401k, her Social Security, and a small pension from her employer. When I walked through the numbers with her, the math showed she could retire comfortably. The first thing she asked me was whether working 3 or 4 more years would significantly improve her financial picture. I told her the truth. It would add maybe 10% to her annual retirement income, if that. She didn't work those extra years. Instead, she retired, started an exercise routine, worked with a nutritionist, and had some real conversations with her family again. 2 years into retirement, she told me her latest physical showed improvement across every marker her doctor had been watching. The stress reduction had given her the gift of health back. That's the second reason. Your health is not unlimited, and work-related stress actively erodes it. Once you've reached a point where you don't need the paycheck, staying there to earn more is gambling with your physical and mental well-being. The third reason is about your relationships. Think about the structure of a typical working life. You're awake at 6:30 or 7. You're commuting or preparing for your day. You're at work for 8, 9, sometimes 10 hours. You're commuting back. You're handling household tasks, buying groceries, maybe cooking dinner. When are you actually present with the people you love? When are you having real conversations with your friends? When are you able to fully focus on your grandchildren? The answer, if we're being honest, is not very much. And that has a cost, a real measurable cost to your relationships and to your quality of life. I want to be very clear about something. I'm not against work. I'm not someone who thinks people should never work. Work can be meaningful. Work can be fulfilling. Work can be an important part of who you are. The question isn't whether work is good or bad. The question is about balance. The question is whether your work is preventing you from nurturing the relationships that actually matter most. I knew a couple, Tom and his wife Linda, who came to me when Tom was 62. Tom had a successful career in consulting. He was good at what he did. But he also knew his parents were in their 80s. He had 3 grown children and 5 grandchildren scattered around the country. Linda had relatives she hadn't spent real time with in years because their schedules never aligned. When I showed Tom the numbers, he could have retired comfortably right then. But he was hesitating. He said, "I think I should work another 5 years just to be safe." I asked him what that meant to him, and he started talking about his daughter's family moving overseas for a job. He talked about the limited time they might have together before that happened. He talked about his aging parents, and as he was telling me these things, his own answer became clear to him. He left his job within 3 months. He and Linda took a trip to visit his daughter's family. He started having breakfast with his parents every week. And he told me, maybe a year and a half in, that the actual cost of those 5 years at the consulting firm would have been irreplaceable time with the people he loved. You can't buy that back. That's the third reason. Your capacity to invest in your most important relationships has an expiration date, and the window is smaller than you think. The fourth reason is something that a lot of retirement planning completely ignores, and it's this. Not all of your remaining years are created equal. I see people at age 62 who say to me, I could live until 90. That's 30 years left. I can work longer. And mathematically, they're right. But here's what they're missing. The first 30 years of your retirement are going to be very different from the last 30 years. Maybe more realistically, the first 10 years will be completely different from the years after that. Think about the difference between age 62 and age 75. At 62, if you're in reasonably good health, you have energy. You can travel, you can hike, you can play with your grandchildren, you can take on projects, you can learn things. You have stamina and mobility. Now jump forward to 75. Most people at 75 are going to have some health limitations. They might have arthritis. Vision might not be as sharp. Stamina is lower. Mobility is restricted. And then jump to 85. The gap is even wider. So when you say you have 30 years of life left, what you really need to ask is, how many of those years will I have genuine health and energy and mobility? The research suggests that those years, what I call your active years, probably span from when you retire until your mid-70s or 80s, depending on your health and genetics. That window is smaller than 30 years. It might be 15, it might be 12, it might be 8. The people who wait until 68, 69, 70 to retire, they're not just delaying their retirement. They're actually shortening the period of time when they'll be able to really enjoy it. I worked with a man named Robert who kept saying he wanted to work until 70 to maximize his benefits. Robert was 63 when we first talked. He was in decent shape, but he had a bad knee, and he mentioned that his father had developed serious mobility issues in his 70s. I asked Robert to think about this scenario. If he worked until 70, that would cost him 7 of his best years in exchange for what was really a modest increase in his monthly benefit. 7 years of age 63 to 70 is genuinely different from 7 years of age 70 to 77 in terms of what you can do and what you can experience. Robert decided to retire at 64. He spent those next years doing things that mattered to him while he had the physical capacity to do them. I don't think he ever regretted that decision. So the fourth reason is this. Your best years are numbered and limited, and they're probably fewer than you think. Don't spend them at a desk if you don't have to. And finally, the fifth reason is straightforward, but it's the one that sometimes gets lost in all the planning. If you're financially ready, there's no legitimate reason to keep working. Now, I need to be specific about what financially ready means, because this is where people get confused. Being financially ready means this. You've calculated your income needs for retirement. You've looked at your Social Security benefit. You understand when you'll claim it and how much it will be. You've looked at any pension income. You've looked at your 401k balance and your IRA balances. You've looked at your savings. And when you add all of that together, you have enough to maintain the lifestyle you want to maintain, with a reasonable margin of safety. That's financial readiness. If you haven't reached that point, then yes, keep working. That makes complete sense. But here's what I see happen with people who have reached that threshold. They keep working anyway, and their reason is often vague. I should work longer just to be safe. Or I've always worked, I don't know what I'd do. Or maybe I need more money. But when you dig deeper, there's often no real reason. They've made work their identity. They've spent so long doing it that the thought of not doing it feels strange and maybe even scary. So they keep doing it by habit, not by necessity. And that, my friends, is a high-cost habit, because the price you're paying in time, in health, in relationships, in missed years of genuine wellness, that price is irreplaceable. I worked with a physician named Dr. Hassan, who was technically able to retire at 65. He had built a strong financial foundation. He had rental property income. He had Social Security coming. He had considerable savings. But he kept working. He kept practicing medicine. And he told himself it was about helping people. It was about contributing. These things were probably true to some degree. But I asked him one question. If you stopped practicing tomorrow, would someone else become a doctor and help your patients? And he knew the answer was yes. There would be other physicians. The world would continue. And I think somewhere in his heart, he knew he was staying at work for psychological reasons, not because the world needed him there. 3 years later, he was burned out. He'd had a health scare, and he finally retired. When we talked after he'd been retired for a year, he told me he couldn't believe he'd wasted those 3 years. So the fifth reason is this. Once you've crossed the financial threshold, continuing to work purely out of habit or identity is a choice that comes with a real cost. And that cost is your life. Let me bring this together for you. I've spent my career helping people understand their Social Security, their retirement income, their benefits. And I've learned that the real question isn't, can I retire? Or even, can I afford to retire? The real question is, what am I trading away by not retiring? Are you trading away years you could spend with people you love? Are you trading away health opportunities? Are you trading away the active, energetic years when you could travel and experience things? If you've reached a place where you don't need the income, then staying at work isn't being responsible. It's being costly. So if you're watching this and you're 60, 62, 65, I want you to really think about these 5 things. Do you understand that time is irreplaceable? Is your health being affected by work stress? Are your relationships suffering? Are you aware that your best years are limited and getting shorter? And have you actually done the math to confirm that you're financially ready? If you've answered yes to most of those, then maybe, just maybe, it's time to have a serious conversation with yourself about retiring. Not someday, not next year, now. Thank you for watching. I'm Daniel Whitmore, and I'm here to help you make smart decisions about your retirement and your life. If this video helped you, please subscribe to the channel. Leave a comment below and let me know what you're thinking about. And remember, your life is too valuable to spend it on things that are no longer necessary. Take care.